My name is David Bullock, and I serve as president of the Highland Park branch, NAACP. I want to thank state leadership, former President Yvonne White, and others for convening. I just want to thank Detroit branch, Al B.J. Williams for his efforts, and all who make this possible. Much has been said, and we do stand in solidarity with the statements and sentiments of our fellow brothers and sisters. We need to get in front of the toxic air that we breathe and the toxic particles and materials that have been disseminated in our water, in our land. The truth is that the Western world has a coal addiction. Generate most of our electricity by using coal. And it's interesting, I want to point this out, that while urban farming in Michigan and Detroit is all the rage, churches are planting small gardens. Residents are planting small gardens in their backyards. They're growing collard greens and turnip greens, squash. Unfortunately, they're growing all of these things on brownfields. They're growing them in their backyard and next to our churches that have polluted land. And for some reason, there is not a charge to get the land tested, but there's a charge to get people to till the soil. And so not only are we being poisoned by our air and our water, but we poison ourselves because we plant collard greens next to our Detroit, Highland Park, Hamtramck churches and ingest mercury and arsenic and lead with our own hands. And so I believe that that's a tragedy and a travesty. So not only must we fight to clean up the air, but we must fight to clean up the earth and the water. So we must clean up before we green up. There must be a move, awareness, because we are currently, presently, poisoning ourselves. I want to point that out as we move towards urban farming. But we do stand in solidarity with the call for the EPA to enact strong air toxic standards. And we know what toxic air does. I'm reminded of Tanisha Shepard, a young lady I adopted at the age of, she was 7 years old. I did not know what she wanted. She was in church one Sunday morning. Reverend Bullock, I said, "What do you want? Get away from me." She was pulling on my coattail. "What do you want?" She said, "I want you to be my adopted father. My father is incarcerated. Maybe he was a victim of the neurotoxin of mercury or lead. Do not know, but he was in jail. She did not have a father, so she asked me to be her daddy." I could not resist the smiling face. I did not know at the time that she was suffering from asthma. And so as I grew and she grew, as a freshman in high school, she missed over 90 days of school because of asthma. Transferred from a Detroit public school to a charter school. And in her senior year, had to advocate for her, had to threaten the school to let her graduate because they were trying to fail her. Her GPA was not at the appropriate level for graduation. And they were trying to say that her GPA was not high enough because she was ignorant, or because she was illiterate, or because she was dumb, because she was educationally incompetent. Turns out that she missed so many classes in the 4 years because of asthma that her grades were low because she was actually operating on a high academic level based upon the number of classes she could attend physically. So we had to call the principal and the counselor and the church. And she did graduate and go to prom, and we're glad about that. But we struggled to get her out of high school. And we struggled to keep her in college, not because she can't read, but because she can't breathe. And we're not so sure that we're going to see her next year because she has asthma. There's so many stories like this in the city of Detroit. Parents who cannot afford medical care, struggling with children who have deadly asthma, and then trying to overcome not just the physical limitations, but the educational and life opportunity limitations that are caused by the inability to breathe because she's breathing toxic air And all of those brothers and sisters who are in southwest Detroit, overshadowed by that incinerator. Incinerator generating electricity, but also generating death. You cannot burn coal and send it into the atmosphere and not know that what goes up must come down. So when it comes down into your lungs and into your dinner plate, when you ingest it and it gets into your mind and it gets into your body, and then as the brother so eloquently stated, and then you try to find other reasons to explain low achievement and failure to take advantage of opportunities, we must say this is wrong, this is unjust, this is racism, and it must stop. I want to close my support for today's testimonies by saying this. In America, we like to use race as an explanatory tool for describing difference. So Detroit is dark, damp, deep, and depressed because black folk live there. Highland Park is poor and pitiful because black folk live there. Hamtramck is hamstrung because minorities live there. I wonder what would happen if we would expand our view and begin to look at the environmental factors that explain difference. I think we would come to discover that there are other reasons. In fact, race may not even be the relevant reason for the massive amount of low achievement, the massive amount of despair in our communities, the massive amount of depression in our communities. We might find that there are cultural and environmental explanations for why people of color, working poor, low income, who striving and having striven to the best of their ability still fall short. Because if the air and the water and the food is poisoned, and if you poison the body, then how can the mind work if my body is poisoned? And so we stand in solidarity and we call on the EPA to enact strong air toxic standards. We call on the corporate community in Michigan and America to own their fair share, to have a sense of self-sacrifice. We must put a floor in the house of America for the poor and a roof on America's house for the rich. Yes.